I'm going to be the best version of myself, whatever is going to happen. And the fact is, when you refocus, not in the direction of what you want to achieve in the world, but what you actually want to be in front of what is coming to you from the world, it's something that depends only on you.
Good morning, everyone. Today on the podcast we have Carlo Alberto Gaetaniello. He's the Director of Business Development at Serenis, one of the leading mental health platforms in Italy. He has been involved in startups for a while. In fact, he is the co-founder of Wiser, and he's also a mentor at Techstars. Beyond his career, he's an active member in the Association of Vipassana Meditation in Italy, and he's pursuing a master in neuroscience and meditation. In this episode, we will deep dive into his turning point and process of leaving his startup because of a severe mental health breakdown.
At a certain point, I lost contact with the principle. I think in the middle of the journey, the principle wasn't there anymore. And I found myself more and more unconsciously following the next successful outcome.
And how all of this has led him to deconstruct his personality in order to have a new approach to life and living a life more present, fulfilled, and happy.
Happiness is always there. That the awareness of you not being your ego is always there.
It's there, but I cannot pay attention.
It's very complicated to get there, and so probably you need practice to get there. And meditation.
We will discuss several topics from spirituality to neuroscience, from philosophy to meditation.
The parable of the boat from Siddharta says something like that. There is a man that needs to cross the river. Okay,
and of course, we're going to talk about his new life philosophy. All of these and so much more at The Carlito Show. Enjoy the episode.
Now, you have in parallel content on TikTok lasting 5 seconds, and the shortest the video, the better. And at the same time, you have a kind of competition in the podcasting industry of who is going to record the longest podcast ever.
And now it's
extremely long. Yeah, Lex Friedman showing off about the 10 hours podcast with
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I saw he did a 5 hours interview with Elon Musk.
With Elon Musk and
now he's bringing more people together.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And he was actually bragging about saying this is the longest podcast I've ever recorded. It's such as it's a kind of something you should be proud of, the duration of the podcast. Yeah. So I think it's a nice trend because I think human conversation deep conversations generally take time, and the fact that you can actually have a medium where you can speak 4 hours of a specific topic, it's a beautiful opportunity. And I agree with Paul Miller says something when I started my own podcast, people around me told me something aren't there enough podcasts already? Do you want to really do another podcast? And he says something, I think there are not enough podcasts at all. If you think about high quality podcasts and the interesting topics of conversations that are out there, there are so many topics of conversation that could be covered with a super interesting conversation, so we can do a lot of more podcasts. And he says something if you have a topic you're interested about, just launch your own podcast. Why not?
100%. And I think it's a benefit for everyone because the internet and the world kind of regulate itself.
Yeah.
So if you start talking about, water, and there are a million people around the world interested about water, you're going to have 1 million great followers.
Exactly.
About
and you can...
There's a lot of space.
Yeah, exactly. And you can find that having conversation about water can bring you extremely interesting knowledge about a topic that you probably know a little few about. So super interesting.
Yeah. And it's always nice to see when people are pursuing their something they like, their passion. And that's the most beautiful thing.
Yeah. So thanks for having me.
No, thanks to you. Thanks for you. This is one of the first episodes, so double thanks. So you're trusting me, and I really like that. All right, so Carlo, it's fun because this is our second conversation. Yeah. So it seems like we already have many of these, but no, it's actually the second one. First time I met you was after this breakfast in Berlin with common friends, and I walked away from our conversation feeling super calm and very, very well. Probably you have this calm inside. So for people who don't know you, how would you present yourself, define yourself? Who is Carlo Alberto?
Okay. This isn't a simple question for me. We also already have a conversation about identity, and probably we will cover something more of that today together. A way that was presented to me of personal presentation of stating who you are from a friend of mine, and I'm going to use that. He says something when people ask me who I am. I always start from why I do what I do. And I think it's a beautiful way, and I would start there saying that my name is Carlo, of course, Carlo Alberto, actually. My mother is very proud of the double name, so I'm going to say
I love it. I'm one of the few with a double name.
Okay.
Miguel, so
Carlos Miguel. Okay. So my full name is Carlo Alberto, and I think that the best way to define myself at the moment, I'm a person that is looking for high intensity experience. This is something that well defined why I'm doing the things I'm doing. And in the process of looking for high intensity experience, more or less related to actually going deeper and deeper in my conscious experience overall as a human, I found myself, first of all, after university, becoming a founder. So this is surely something that is related to my personal path. So I founded a company just after university. The name is Wiser. It's an Italian startup working in the climate tech environment industry. And I did an amazing journey, 4 years, something like that, 4-year journey as a founder that helped me discover a lot about myself, my life, my principle, my values, and also led me to one of the biggest mental breakdowns I've ever experienced in my life. I would say probably the real mental breakdown I experienced in my life. And that was actually a gate to a really personal transformation, which is ongoing at the moment. Now, as a professional, I joined another startup, an Italian scale-up. The name is Serenis, and we work in the mental health industry. And somehow we can draw a line there. I moved from focusing on very a broad topic about the environment and how we can the mission of Wiser is really trying to change in the world, starting from having an impact on the planet we live in, and specifically to the topic of the quality of air. I moved from there to a company that is working more at the individual level.
But always about caring. So
always about caring, but with a perspective of saying probably if you want to change the world, you actually need to start from the well-being of the individuals. And I think that makes sense, and I really wanted to join a company working in the mental health industry. It's something that I'm deeply passionate about, I would say. And so now this is my full-time job. At the same time, I'm doing a lot of stuff around, more related to working with other startups and other founders, helping them with their personal journey, and some stuff that is more related to spiritual coaching. So I'm helping some of a group of people in their spiritual path, which doesn't seem really related, but for me it's extremely related. And then I'm doing a master in neuroscience and meditation.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Many things.
Yeah. For no specific outer world oriented goal, saying I'm doing all this stuff because I'm building this career path, but much more about I'm tracking my journey. So I'm in the middle of actually tracking my journey, and these are just signs that I'm following with a very an approach that I call surrendering to life. So very long, long answer.
But I love that you're doing many things because you actually want to do those things and not because of a second step or an opportunistic perspective. Because many of the time, when you're doing something in your career is in order to get that afterward. I study this so that I can do X, etc. And you're doing this because you actually want to do this. You're finding yourself out through these experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that most of the time, standard way of reasoning upon your career is about backward engineering, like you start from the outcome where you want to get, and then you backward engineer your career from there, and you say, okay, if I want to get that promotion, then I have to do this or that, or if I want to enter in that company, I have to do this or that. But there is an important false hypothesis here, which is the outcome is depending on what I will do to reach that outcome. So the outcome is depending on me. So there is a way of actually backward engineering what I should do to actually get there. When you do this reasoning, what you're missing is there are so many variables to get you there that don't depend on you at all. Totally don't depend on you at all. And what I always say is that every moment of your life you can decide if you want to live a life in which you actually try to bend reality to what your desired outcome is, and you will find yourself in very painful situations, because again, you may do all the things right, but there are always variables, and most of them are the vast majority of the variables in place that don't depend on you. Or you can decide to actually take what is in front of you and do the best with that. And at that point, what you're actually aiming is not reaching the outcome after 5 years, 2 years or something, but actually doing the process as best, at your best. You're actually moving the focus from the outcome to the process. And the process is something that is happening right now. But to do that, you need to develop a profound trust in the process. And I think my shift after my first experience as a founder, in my perspective about my career, but again about my life, because career and life sometimes are completely overlapped, and boundaries are just in our minds. If 80% of our time in a week is dedicated to career, it's no more career, it's your life, it's 80% of your life. And the shift I did was really trying to develop a profound trust in the process. And the beautiful thing is, at the beginning, there is a sort of an act of faith you should do. And you don't do that based purely on faith. As I did it, you do it based mostly from what you've heard from other people doing the same thing, and people that you actually trust. But after the act of faith, you actually trust the process.
So no matter what is the process, what is the outcome, you always have faith in the process.
I have faith in the process, and my approach is also to my career is that I'm doing my best with whatever is in front of me, whatever life is bringing to me.
Is there any will by your side on what's in front of you? What is the right balance between casuality and will? Because there must be somehow an intersection.
Yeah, there must be. And this is we're already covering a super complicated topic. Extremely complicated. Right in the middle. When you live a life of surrender, this is the tricky part. Because as you say, we have a will. The will is there. Or we can call it will. We can call it freedom. So every day we actually wake up and we need to decide what to do.
We choose everything.
Yeah, we choose everything. Then there is another topic.
But not everything depends on those choices.
Yeah, exactly. You have a minimum impact. Those choices have a minimum impact about the actual outcome. And we can make tons of examples about that, but just keep it there. There is a will. There is the possibility of making a decision every day about what to do. And the fact is surrendering to life is not, the meaning is not living a passive life. Just be there and just say whatever, say yes to everything or no to everything, or just you don't care about the future, you don't care about responsibilities. It's not like that. The fact is you concentrate your will in saying, I'm going to be the best version of myself, whatever is going to happen. And the fact is, when you refocus, not in the direction of what you want to achieve in the world, but what you actually want to be in front of what is coming to you from the world, that does depend only on you. Like being the best version of yourself, regardless of what the world is bringing to you, it's something that depends only on you. And the fact is, the world you will unfold in reality as a consequence of that. Because of course you have passions, of course you have a past, you have memory, of course you have a relationship around you. So it's not that you don't receive, you don't have a lot to give to the world. It is already there, and it is going to grow and grow and grow. But the fact is, you can let it unfold into the world, just saying, I'm going to be the best version of myself, whatever is going to come. And the fact that you will be very active, like you will definitely track your journey, just saying, just making the commitment of being the best version of yourself. You don't need, this commitment will bring as a consequence, of course, responsibilities, of course, a vision of the future, of course, a question about what you like and what you don't like. But the fact is, whatever is going to happen to you, the first principle of your life is going to be, I'm still going to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
There is a beautiful book, it's called the Lion's Tracker's Life Guide or something like that. I don't remember the name of the guy. I'm very sorry for that, but it will come. Yeah, exactly.
Write it down.
He's a coach, but he's a guy that is actually he's doing a lot of things. But what he's doing, the book is how you apply some principles of lions tracking, which is a beautiful job. Lions trackers are the people in South Africa or national parks in Africa in general. And when you do a safari, there are people that are actually bringing the group to see the lions. Okay, there are some people that actually should find the lions first. And it's not like that those guys are just going randomly in the savannah to find the lions. There are people that track the lions early in the morning, generally.
Exactly, I guess.
and then they signal to all the groups to come to where the lions are. So this is a lion tracker, a beautiful job. So what he says in this book, applying principles of lion tracking, is my life advice is just put in your life what it makes you feel good, and avoid in your life what it makes you feel bad. And he says something like, when I say this to people, most of the people, they answer to me something like, no, you cannot do that, it's impossible. Or probably the most common answer is, when I say something to you like that, or when I say something to you just surrender to life, you imagine yourself laying on a beach somewhere, quitting everything, take a plane to whatever exotic place in the world and just laying on the beach for the rest of your life. But reality is that it's not what is going to happen. When I ended up my first role as a founder in Wiser, there was a kind of a deep fear inside of me of saying, I'm not going, this was so tough that I'm not going to be able to do it again anymore. Now I have much more... Being a founder, or having such a high responsibility role in a company, or building a new product from scratch, all the anxiety that comes from that. I was in the middle of a real mental breakdown, and in my mind was I won't be able to do it again. It's too tough for me. But the fact is, now I'm doing exactly the same, probably with more responsibilities. But the framing of
You're
that...
not anxious as you were.
Anxiety is always there. You need to find your way through it, but at a much lower level than before. And the fact is really reframing your life in that way, because what he says in the book is something that what I found out is when people start putting more of what they like in your life and less of what they don't like, they find yourself naturally engaged in bringing something to the world. Like you won't be laying down on a beach in an exotic place. You will actually do what
I think what you get is basic, because we make this division in our mind from being active doing things and being passive not doing things, and actually intersection is like the focus. So you do things without forcing it. It doesn't mean you're not like working hard, but it's kind of happening, right?
Yeah.
You're letting yourself go somehow.
The fact is,
it's like something automatic, I would say.
Somehow, really take the commitment seriously. This is another powerful idea, no? I don't remember who says that, but an extremely mind-changing idea is take a very simple idea and they take it very seriously. And I think this is a very simple idea. Like, write a commitment for yourself and just say, I'm going to be the best version of myself, whatever is going to happen. Like, if you use this as a first principle, you will find yourself working extremely hard because it's not, it's super hard because it's not easy at all. Like, how difficult it is to be the best version of ourselves in front of whatever is going to happen. And life is full of shitty happenings, like full of them. And the commitment is, I'm going to be the best version of myself. You take that very seriously, the outcome comes naturally. The fact is that you achieving the commitment, you feeling fulfilled by your life, at that point won't depend on the outer outcome anymore. And you will find your meaning in yourself and how you yourself respond to the world. And this depends on you, only on you. Like, there is a real a completely separated world between how much of that depends on you, which is mostly 100%. Like, we should be conscious here, like this saying that it's very difficult to be the best version of you. Whatever it happens, it's very difficult to not be reactive, and how difficult it is, it also depends on your history, your memory, your past traumas. So it's not like it's the same for anybody. I feel like I'm very lucky to just being in this position, and like there is a degree of responsibility of luck in me having the possibility of being here and stating this. That being said, at the same time, there is so much that actually depends on you, and you can actually work on it to be the best version of yourself. And in the present moment, now it depends on you, what you can do in that direction.
What we have in front of us doesn't depend on us.
Exactly.
Very little, but how we react to it, depends 100%.
100%, mostly 100% on us, yeah.
That's very interesting. But let me ask you, during your first experience as a founder, were you following this principle?
Not at all. and probably this is one of the reasons I ended up with a mental breakdown. But I think that
what would have been following the principle back then? What would have that mean?
I would probably I would say something like that. I think the principle somehow was there when I began my journey as a founder. When I started the company during my last year of university in Italy, being a founder wasn't something cool. Or it wasn't like...
You started your company how many years ago? Because now it's different. Now it's somehow accepted. But I guess 5 years ago.
It's more than 5 years ago.
Okay, then it's...
no
one knows what that means.
Yeah, exactly. In Italy at that time, startup was something strange, and you were speaking with your family or with your peers, and coming out from engineering university, I had Politecnico di Milano. I had a lot of peers actually starting their own career in consultancy, in big companies with quite big salaries, and for me and for my co-founders, we were all colleagues at the university. Deciding to found a startup was quite an unconventional decision to make, and we made that decision, deciding not to pay ourselves a salary for more or less 1 year, and then paying ourselves something like 700 euros a month for another year. So it was super tough. And I think the driving principle there, even if I wasn't able to actually state the principle as I'm stating it right now, was something like, this is what I like now. I'm really focused on the present moment and saying, this is what I like. I trust myself in saying that I'm going to like really work hard and like really I will take all the responsibility that I have in life, even through an unconventional path, because I trust myself. And
that is very courageous choice, I would say.
Yeah.
Because everybody's doing consulting or some
Yeah.
other jobs, and you are going this way on your own.
Yeah, you actually need a lot of trust in yourself, I think, and in the process. And on the other hand, I said something like, "This is if I wake up in the morning and I feel fulfilled, this cannot be wrong."
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
like it can logically cannot be wrong. And so the principle was there somehow. But then through the journey, I think this is not just in the founder's career path, it's in a lot of other career paths. Like you find yourself identifying more and more with your successes and your failures. So if the startup is going well, if the company is going well, you feel like you're actually more complete. You're actually achieving something. It's like you're actually building
it's because of you.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you fail or when there are failures, you actually feel like this is your fault, you're missing something, you're going in the wrong direction. So I started using more and more success and failure of the company to actually question the trust I had at the beginning in myself, and to actually build my identity around it. And
so you think you were following the principle, but this judgment on the outcome of your startup?
I think at a certain point I lost contact with the principle. I think in the middle of the journey, the principle wasn't there anymore, and I found myself more and more unconsciously following the next successful outcome. And so,
can you give me an example of that?
This is a very straightforward example. Like we raised our first seed round end of 2021. And that was we had validated the market a little bit. The product was actually somehow working, and so we raised the seed round to actually scale. And so we hired some people, and we started actually building a sales pipeline. So things were moving, and that period was extremely exciting. And I remember myself feeling very complete. I felt like something like, this is the best job in the world. I'm the luckiest person in the world. This is amazing. This is beautiful.
Because you won.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I won. The outcome is there. No, I finally reached that. And then you build up your ego and you say, what an exceptional founder I am. What an exceptional company I'm building. And then at the end, and this is super funny, at mid 2022, if I remember that well, but I think that was the inflation hitting the tech industry, and it was the period in which YC sent a letter to all the founders stating something like, you won't raise for the next 1 year and a half, capital invested in tech is going to be lower and lower, you should cut all your expenses, you should be extremely aware of your burn rate. And all the tech industry at that point was shocked, and lower capital invested, all the investment industry in that moment was kind of freezing. And so mid of 2022 also we had a strategy meeting also with our investors, and we actually decided, okay, this is serious. Not we had a very standard playbook and business plan where we are going to burn all our money in 1 year and a half to reach the next milestone. No, this is serious. Maybe we should actually look at the burn rate. And we had the possibility to actually bring the company to profitability. So that was okay. No, let's cut expensive. Let's redesign the growth in a way that is more sustainable in time. So we reduce the number of people, we reduce the ambition, but at the same time we also aim at look at profitability. And at that point, and that wasn't something actually depending on me.
Yeah.
Most of that was actually depending on the condition of the market. But I remember that was like at the beginning, in the moment in which I began to feel something was wrong, because like the outcome wasn't there anymore.
You wanted to force.
Like I wanted
the other round.
The other round, the growth of the company, and I started like a chain of thoughts in the following months of saying, maybe I'm not as successful as I thought I was. Maybe there is something wrong with me. Should I even be a founder? Like, am I capable of being a founder? Like, and it's incredible how you actually translate really outer world variables into part of your identity.
And you're not able to focus on your startup anymore because you were too much in your mind because of this.
I was too much in my mind, and like there is a lot of anxiety that comes from it. And then when you have a very like a high responsibility role, I use the word mental breakdown, which is very common, very generic, but we can also, like, I really had an episode of major depression. This is how you would call that. And I always say that major depression that comes out of a career, which is strongly related to your career. Sometimes we think, also using the word burnout, that this is related to the amount of hours that you work. Like working too hard will lead you to burnout. But the fact is, and this is not like to say you should work 12 hours a day, this is not what I'm doing at the moment. But the fact is, the problem is not in the amount of hours you actually work. Because for 2 years and a half or something like that, I worked like 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And those were, I lived some of the best moments of my life. I felt super fulfilled. And I wouldn't complain a word about working that hard or that much amount of time in that period. But the fact is, very toxic combination is a high amount of hours without a meaning. So the problem is there when you actually work 10, 12 hours a day, which is something that sometimes is required. When you work when you have a high intensity role, a lot of responsibility sometimes. There are periods, and I always now look at that as a cyclicality, and which this is another very important point. But there may be some periods in which you actually need to work 10 hours a day, and this is not a problem. The problem is if you're working.
You know why?
Yeah, exactly. If you actually don't know why you're doing that, this is going to be a crazy mixer, and that was at the time what actually happened.
And what do you think would have been the right meaning to look at?
Yeah, I think like if I had applied the first principle that I'm using now, like just be the best version of yourself, would have been like, okay, this is what the market is doing, like this is what the market is giving to me. I'm just going to be the best version of myself, whatever is in front of me. So I would have reacted in a much more healthier way. And I would have managed the situation with my co-founders in much more healthier way, because I have a wonderful relationship with my co-founders, but for them going through the process of actually resizing the company, and with me having a major depression episode, that was a mess for them as well. For everyone. The final outcome of the process may have been the same. I might recognize the fact that that wasn't the path of me, and that once we rescaled the company and the goals, I wasn't my inner self wasn't meant to be there, and so I would have actually in a healthier process of being the best version of myself, I would have exited the company anyway. We don't know that.
It could be, yeah.
It could be.
Like acknowledge that I'm good at fundraising, I'm good at growing and pushing the company bigger, but not like downsizing.
Exactly. The journey could be exactly the same, but without a major depression episode in the middle. The fact is, whatever would have happened at that time, if I had the mindset of being the best version of yourself, surrender to life, I could have been where I am now. I could be still in Wiser working with my co-founders, but the fact that that would have been optimized for my happiness and my well-being. So I would be probably exactly as happy and fulfilled as I am now. And the fact is that the important point is you really need to choose. Like you really need to choose if you want to optimize for your well-being or for the outer world outcome. Because those two things, like, they don't go together. Like, or it's not automatic, the association between your well-being and the outer world outcome that you think you will give you your well-being. Because this is another...
It's not easy to do when you have a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah.
You need to be very, very honest with yourself.
Yeah. Yes. With yourself, and this is another important part. Like with yourself and with the people around you. Like transparency is another key element of a life of surrender. Like you cannot surrender to life and be extremely responsible if you're not able to be transparent to yourself and to the people around you. Because this is the only way you can actually kind of nudge reality with who you are without setting a goal you need to actually achieve. Or not using the outer world goal as a first principle. That's the point. Because outer world goals are there. Like I'm launching a new product on the market there. We have tons of goals of everything.
I guess so.
Yeah. And there are goals in my life related to financial safety. For sure. There are goals in my life related to relationships that I want to have. But those goals are there not because I want to reach them, but because I know to be the best version of myself today, I need to have some responsibility towards my future. And this is important, but even...
As long as these are aligned with yourself.
Exactly.
And this makes you happy.
Exactly.
Because when these things don't make you happy, then you should leave this
of course,
off the table.
Of course, because if you want to be the best version of yourself...
You're not going to be the best version of yourself.
Exactly.
Otherwise.
Exactly.
So, I think that's an amazing principle. I will think a lot about it. Try to follow
it works. So far, at least. I'm more than a year and a half into that, and I think it works.
Now you're very aware of this. I'm wondering, during the mental breakdown, how was the process? Because I mean, now you're telling us we need to internalize it, but probably no one told you. You had to find out yourself. How was this journey of finding out this principle?
I think, as I said, partly like was already there inside of me, and this is thanks, I think, to the education I received from my parents. There is surely, or to in general the experience I had before entering my career. I'm deeply passionate about Japan. This is something that is there since I was a kid, and so I know a lot about Japanese culture. I went into Buddhism and Zen when I was in high school, so some of the principles were already there. But then, like as I said, I lost those principles in the journey at a certain point, and like the process of getting back to that and like fully like entering in a really surrendering mode, I think it was actually a process. Like so, it was actually like taking my time to actually recenter my attention, my energy into myself. That was super important. Like having like 3-4 months of complete like blank in my calendar, and just waking up every morning and just like actually having the chance to really focus on like who am I now, what are my principles, what I really believe, and I went through that thanks first of all to a therapist. So like I received a lot of support, and I'm very grateful for that. Like in my worst moment, like a therapist really saved my life. For 6 months, I did a kind of a journey with him, and then I started reading a lot of books about people and consuming contents like the one that we are actually recording today. Like consuming contents and reading books. So what I said, like you need an act of, probably at the beginning you need an act of faith. They can start also like you again, like surrender doesn't begin with like completely breaking up your life and just leave your job, leave your family or whatever. Like, it starts from small things, and it starts from reframing the way you look at life and do small exercise. It can start from there. So I started reading books. of authors that were like the word itself, surrender, comes from the Surrender Experiment, which is a book written from Michael Singer, which I consider one of, I've never met the guy, I probably will sooner or later, but I consider
him
him
a sponsor of him.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost
A sponsor, like in Italy for sure. It's not the only, but it's one of the person that I consider one of my spiritual master in that sense.
And you started having faith that, okay, I'm having this breakdown, but this is what needs to happen in my journey.
Yeah.
Or this will lead to something good for me.
I think I started just looking at how my energy, like it was like, okay, let's start from there, and then day 2, day 3, you see actually your energy, like you actually see yourself being the best version of yourself. You see you see yourself feeling more fulfilled, you see yourself feeling more engaged with life, you feel yourself like what you're doing is exactly what you should do. And so it was a process of increasing trust in the process. And so and it was about reading book and consuming content. Then I had that was brought to me again through life. I had the fortune to actually meet a coach, she's actually my coach now as well. And she, like, we are doing this journey together. So, and I'm doing this journey with my coach, with my readings, with my meditation, and also with the support of a community around me. I'm really surrendering myself of people that actually live life, look at life in a way that, in this way, that I see them when I speak to them and I say these words, that they actually resonate, and we can actually support each other, because again, being the best version of yourself, it's not easy at all, and you're not wired for that. Like, your nervous system is not wired to not react to things happening to you. It's wired for exactly the opposite. So it's extremely tough, but you actually build you actually collect a lot of building blocks, starting from that first principle and that act of faith, and then the process does the rest, because you will feel better. That's the point.
Yeah, 100%. And why do you think we're not wired for that? If that is what we should be doing in order to be good,
this is
good.
Yeah, this is an enormous question, because the very simple answer, and the real answer is I have no clarity about it. Like, it's a mysterious thing, because but a simple answer we can find is that our nervous system is wired for survival. It's not wired for happiness. Like, to the species, to we as member of the human species, or member of the natural ecosystem, it's not required for us to be happy as long as we survive. That's the point.
Because in nature it's harder to survive.
Yeah, exactly. In natural condition, like, our nervous system is designed for our survival and not for our happiness. And our nervous system has adapted a lot of its features to our modern society, to the way we organize ourselves, the way we live as a social group. And those features they are there for other reasons. And this is so when we apply those features in the wrong way, like, the impact will be extremely bad for your happiness, maybe not for your survival. Like, the fact is, like, having optimizing for achieving 10 million in your bank account may be the best strategy for your survival. Actually, practically extremely sure whatever is going to happen, you will have the wealth and the resources to actually protect yourself, but it may not be the best way, like, to optimize for your happiness. And so that, but it's very mysterious. The fact is, when you actually work to let go of more of your mind, let go of more of the thinking, let go of more and more of the of the mental process, conscious mental process you have in your mind, you find that this is a beautiful discovery. You find that the natural status of your consciousness is immense happiness and joy. Like it, and I always say that about, like, you can say that about meditation, but meditation is really, like, we should, like, really give the correct meaning to meditation. Meditation is actually a way to live your life. It's not the
It's a tool.
It's a tool related to how you live your life. It's not just a simple, like, formal closing your eyes and actually focusing your attention. But the fact is, you can say that about meditation. You can say also that about life. What you find out in meditation and the right approach to life, or to fight your worries and anxiety, it's not adding. It's not about adding content to your consciousness. It's removing. It's about less. It's not about more. Because the fact is, when you remove everything, immense joy and happiness remain.
But you think we find, like, the immense happiness is already within ourselves? Or we find it?
No, I think it's there.
I also think so.
Yeah, I think it's there, and this is a beautiful discovery. This is why I think the answer to the previous question is extremely mysterious. Like, it's true, our nervous system is optimized for survival. So if we definitely follow our nervous system, by default, I don't think we are going to be happy. We actually need to actually actively work on how our nervous system respond to the world through our conscious experience to actually feel happy. But the fact is that work is not about adding, it's about removing, and at the end, you will find yourself being happy. So it's true that in nature, like, our nervous system is not designed for our happiness. But at the same time, it's true that our natural state of consciousness is happiness, and so this is a tricky point. It's puzzling me.
How about this natural state of consciousness being happy? When do you experience this? While you're meditating or all the time?
Not all the time, of course. In the few illuminating moments of my life in which I'm just fully present to myself, and in which I actually, and this is another topic that we can like, I can stay that, and then we see digging deeper into this very profound hole, but in which I actually I'm actually aware of the fact that I'm not my thoughts, that I'm not my ego, that I'm just the flow of consciousness happening in front of me right now.
That's very hard to understand.
Yeah. But in those moments of awareness, and those moments can happen in meditation, during meditation, but meditation, like, should be a part of your life at a certain point. If you can bring those awareness in, like, it's as we said, like, happiness is there. That awareness is already there in every moment. And if you can touch that, if you can remove all the layers and actually get to that point, to that state, you will feel that happiness.
Mm-hmm. And I know what you're saying. Me personally, I really like what you say, and I really agree. But what I can also say, based on my experience, is that I somehow feel a division between that state when I'm meditating and I'm feeling the bliss, I'm feeling this consciousness, I'm feeling all this love, and while I'm not meditating, because I feel inside this body, mind, so I feel somehow a contrast between these two things. But what you're saying is, like, bring in that consciousness also. I mean, so you unite the two things.
I can give you, like, a very, to be an extremely concrete example. As we were saying, like, I clearly remember some moments after the fundraising and the seed round of real happiness, like, looking in front of me at the people joining the company, all what we were building, and what we have achieved after a lot of sacrifices, and I felt like a real state of happiness. I think,
and that happiness was a happiness of the consciousness, not of the ego.
Yeah, of the consciousness. It was an authentic happiness. I think it was there. After my experience after going through that journey, and after years of meditation, because it's been years I've been meditating for years now. I can, and this is funny, I remember that clearly. I can see I think 6 months ago, and I was at a table with my family, after I went back home. I come from a small town in Italy. Went back home. I had a Sunday lunch with my family. We were at the restaurant. I was in a very nice restaurant in Italy, and I was actually, I don't remember what I was eating. What I was eating, something that was very delicious, and I just ate that, and I look at my family. That was one of the happiest moment of my life in recent years, and there was nothing there.
I'm feeling it somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know why you transmitted it to me.
There was nothing there at all. I was extremely aware of the taste of the food. I was extremely aware of the faces of my families. I was extremely aware of the sound they were making with their voices, and I was just there. And that was a bliss. And I wasn't meditating at the time. During meditation, you actually train your mind to be in that state. This is what meditation is about. And I was accessing the state. I was just you
were as happy.
Exactly.
You got the happiness.
Yeah. Without the need of having an actual external outcome to bring that to me.
Because you were 100% present and enjoying.
You
were doing the best you could do.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoying the lunch and the dinner.
Exactly. Yeah, and I wasn't in that moment identified with my thoughts. I wasn't identified with my social identity, my ego. I was just living my conscious experience. I really think that formal meditation is needed. I think that formal meditation, and we can have a conversation about it, actually doing exercise with your mind to actually change the way your mind and your nervous system works to access those states. I think it is needed. And I'm quite skeptical sometimes, and I'm also skeptical of my own spiritual masters, because a beautiful thing that another spiritual master says is spiritual masters should always be temporary and more than one. You should always be aware that your spiritual master is not there forever. You should take the best out of him, and then incorporate all the teaching inside your life and your personal experience. It should be temporary, and it should be more than one, because more than one means that you have a lot of perspective in lives. I'm going to open a parenthesis there because it's too beautiful. Yeah, it's too beautiful not to say this. This is a parable from Siddharta, and it's the parable of, I know the word in Italian and not in English, but let's call it the boat. Probably the right word in English.
How do you say in Italian?
Zattera.
Zattera, okay.
Yeah, it's extremely cold. Yeah, hard to translate. It's a small boat. You do that with in hours. When you just have
I don't know if you can.
Look for the line in English. Yeah, I don't find myself using that word a lot in my common life. But okay. Let's see. But the boat you can do with some trees in few hours. Okay, and the parable of the boat from Siddharta says something like that. There is a man that needs to cross the river. Okay, and so he says, okay, I'm going to build a boat for that. So he goes and he actually builds the boat. Then he uses the boat to cross the river. He crosses the river, and then when he's at the other bank, he says, this boat was extremely useful. So I'm going to bring my boat with me because it was such a useful boat. It was actually saving my life, helping me crossing the river, that I'm going to bring the boat with you. So he starts working carrying the boat. And Siddharta says something. Do you think this man is a wise man? Carrying the boat with him just because it was useful to... No. Just leave the boat. You cross the river. And so this is my approach also to spiritual masters and spiritual teaching. And Siddharta, which is a beautiful example of a spiritual master that was completely free from his ego. And he says you can use my teaching as a boat. Use that to cross the river. Then leave it to the ground.
Yeah. Choose the right one. Apply them. And then leave them.
then you won't
so you
need
can
the
have
teaching.
space to the other.
Yeah,
one.
exactly, and you won't need the teaching anymore. You will just live your own experience. So I have this approach to spiritual masters in general, and so I'm very skeptical of my spiritual masters as well. And one skepticism I have for some things that are said by both Michael Singer, which is one of my spiritual masters, another one in Serenis, both like long-term meditators in different traditions, and they've written beautiful books, and Serenis has a beautiful podcast, and the only meditation app I strongly suggest, I'm not a fan of meditation app, but if you have to download one meditation app, you should definitely download Waking Up by Serenis, and I'm not paid to say that. I'm skeptical when they say like you really need to find your way to apply meditation to life. So the important part is not spending 1 hour sitting to meditate. The important part is what we said just now, like accessing to the real awareness that is there, that will bring you joy and happiness in your life. So, and sometimes they say it's sufficient to actually meditate 10 minutes in the day, 10 minutes in the evening, and you can you start, but the important part is actually bringing the meditation in life, and I agree, that is the important part. But I'm skeptical of the fact that you can actually reach that state of awareness in the middle of your life without a discipline in the practice. Like without actually practicing with formal meditation a lot. And I know why Michael Singer and Serenis says that, because it's very inaccessible. If I say to you, your path to what I'm doing is, first of all, you should do a 10-day meditation retreat. And then after a 10-day meditation retreat in silence, you need to find your ways to that. And then you have to meditate 2 hours a day. Now you say to me, okay, thank you very much. You don't know where to start. It's very complicated. So they say, to make that more accessible, they say, no, like just start with 10 minutes, but then focus in actually bringing that awareness in your own life. And I agree with that part, like in part, like I'm skeptical of the fact that you can actually achieve that without first having a lot of practice, because those are people that they say that after having practiced for years. Like Serenis has joined meditation courses for 30 days, 45 days, like crazy experience in Tibet and etc. So the fact is, when you actually when you find yourself really established in meditation, then you can actually recognize the fact that meditation per se is not important. That you can actually recognize what I'm saying, that happiness is always there, that the awareness of you not being your ego is always there, that you don't need to meditate. It's there, like it's already there now.
It's there, but I cannot pay attention.
It's very complicated to get there, and so probably you need practice to get there. And meditation, like yoga, like there is a lot of tradition, like it's not only meditation, but you should find I think an activity, your practice to actually work on that, because it takes time.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of this journey. So as I told you, I started meditating a couple of years ago, and then I tried different meditations, and I think it's only now that I'm somehow understanding what you're saying, but still on the journey. And when did you do your first 10 days meditation?
In 2021, so 4 years ago, something like that.
You were already meditating then?
Not at all.
So you followed the advice, the crazy advice, okay?
No, not at all. No, exactly. Like meditation was a word in my vocabulary, of course, because coming from, as I said, an interest in Japan, like I read a lot about Buddhism and Zen. So like in those readings, like the word meditation is always there, but I actually didn't understand the meaning at the time, but there was something in the back of my mind of saying sooner or later I want to understand the meaning of this word. And then it came like randomly and naturally.
You surrendered to it.
It was like a friend of mine. We were working together at the time. He had lived for 2 years in India, and he had at the time he had some experience in ashram in India, and he says, I did some meditation, I want to do it more now in Italy. I had some friends of mine just said that there is this very authentic association that is proposing 10-day courses here in Italy. They have a meditation center here in Italy, so I'm thinking I'm going if you want to come, but you're interested in Japan, Asia, and whatever, why not? And I decided to go. And then,
in Italy?
In Italy, yeah. The association has meditation centers.
And you had no expectation? I mean, you were curious about it, but you had
zero expectations. Right? I didn't know anything about it. I really didn't know anything about it. And it actually changed my life, but... And again, it was a process, and probably I also agree in that sense with Michael and Sam, like saying you can do meditation without understanding why you're doing that, and you can get meditation extremely wrong. So I started meditation, and I actually committed to meditation since 2021, but my mental breakdown came after 2 years of deeply into the meditation. So meditation wasn't enough for me to avoid my mental breakdown. And during my mental breakdown, it wasn't there to help me because my identity at that time was so crushed, so broken, that meditation was really impossible. And so another part is that
the mind took over.
Yeah, like the fact is, I also got to this conclusion: to get rid of your ego, you first need to achieve a solid ego. Like you actually require some solid basis of your identity to then start the process of actually removing everything. Because if you start...
You think is a mandatory step?
I put it in that way. I work with the association now, and I help them in the managing the enrollment process. So when you apply for a meditation course, there is a group of people that is actually reviewing your application to be sure that your mental status is not too fragile.
Okay.
Because it may be dangerous, yeah. So if you are in the middle of a major depression episodes, if you're taking drugs, if you're in a fragile mental state, they won't allow you to the course. And the point is, at the beginning I was thinking about, they don't want to take responsibility because, oh my God, you take a person with major depression and you don't know what happens during the meditation, very dangerous. And I think there is a part of that, but there is also part of you actually need stability to work on your mind. You need a stable mind to actually work on it. Mm-hmm. And so if you're in the middle of a mental health crisis, in an episode of major depression, and this is also the difference between, I think this is a way to distinguish what the meditation, and in particular the kind of meditation I do, which is a Vipassana meditation, from the more contemporary mindful-based therapy that we have at the moment. In particular in Western society now, there is a lot of starting from the work that John Kabat-Zinn did, the inventor of mindful-based stress reduction method, did in the 70s. Now we have a lot of...
But those are very different because, from my experience, which is of course limited, mindfulness is more about being present, but relaxing your
exactly.
So slowing down,
exactly.
While actual meditation is getting to do nothing. So
it's exactly mindful-based stress reduction. So it's stress reduction. It's therapy. It allows you to actually, and it works in an amazing way. And this is why I don't like the word mindfulness as a synonymous of meditation. Mm-hmm. It's not because MBSR is not useful. It's extremely useful.
It's a more accessible way.
It's accessible, and also the goal is different. So mindfulness is really about, as we say, it's a mental health therapy in the Western tradition. So it's about allowing you to experience a more stable identity, an healthier mental state,
slowing down your crazy mind.
Yeah, exactly. Like removing anxiety, treating depression. Like MBSR is extremely successful in treating depression. So it's actually working on some mechanisms that you're actually working on also when you're meditating. But the goal of meditation is much more than that, and probably MBSR is much more about like it can help to do the first step, like to reach a stable mind. But then meditation goes much beyond of that. And meditation, as it was structured by Siddharta, we can use the tradition of Buddhism, but in general, meditation is really about insight. It's about knowledge. It's not about like relaxation. So it's about hard work to access some deep truth about yourself and your life that are going to make yourself much happier at the end. But it's completely different. But what I say is, yes, we do the enrollment in the meditation center. Sometimes we suggest just do some mindfulness and then come to this retreat. Because the point is what I was saying, you actually need to have a stable mind, a stable identity, an healthy mind on a basic level to then access to the insight that meditation can bring to you. And Siddharta was the role of Siddharta as a human. He actually was a physician. He was a doctor, and he worked to remove suffering from humans. That was his job. He really perceived himself, and he speaks like a physician. He does a diagnosis and then he prescribes a cure. But the fact is that the suffering Siddharta is working on is existential suffering. Is the suffering that is deeply rooted in being a conscious being, like in your consciousness, in the way your consciousness and your nervous system works. But to work on that suffering, you first need to probably remove the most brutal, evident suffering that you have from your trauma, your episode of depression. So there is a path towards that. Then at the end there won't be.
Once you're free,
once
you can remove the existential.
I would say once you're stable, then you can start the operation of actually removing the existential suffering, which is it's like a metaphor we can use here. It's like you can do an important operation at your heart to actually for an important for a disease that you have. You won't do that operation when you have flu.
Sure.
It's not like just get rid of the flu and then we're going to do the operation to save your life. But we won't do the operation in the middle of the flu. Your body is weak. You don't have your defense operating well. So let's just get rid of the flu and then we are going to operate your heart. And this is very similar. First you need to actually get rid of the flu, and it's much easier to do that. I wouldn't say it's a shorter process, I think. Getting rid of anxiety, depression, and then we can actually work on your heart. That's the point.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's incredible. Second time I'm talking to you, again, we're talking about Vipassana meditation, and whenever you tell me about this, I feel like I want to do a Vipassana retreat. Yeah.
Amazing.
Do you think I would be ready to do it?
Yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah. Definitely. You're totally. If we are here speaking today, you're definitely ready to do it.
I'm ready. I think it's a sign.
It's a sign, exactly. Exactly. You should surrender to that. No, totally.
And how do you measure that you are removing the existential suffering? You are not tapping into that state of being. You're tapping into that state of being less.
Yeah, I think it's about that moment of awareness that I've described to you at the restaurant with my family. I think it's about the amount of moments of awareness that you actually have in your life. They just increase in number, and you find yourself gradually. This is the positive side. The moment of awareness, you gradually find yourself tapping more and more in that state of mind in which you're just the flow of your consciousness. You're just aware of that, and you're happy.
But once I'm like that all the time, I remove the existential suffering.
Yeah. We can say. I don't know if that is that is alignment, right? That is reaching the final state, and I'm not there at all, and I don't know if I will ever reach that. But I think I think it's something like that. I think at that point. When we speak about an enlightened person, I think he's someone that is in the continuous awareness that is just the flow of consciousness. He's not identified with his thoughts, and he's not identified with his ego, and he's just aware. And he do like the fact he does exactly the same things that we are doing, just in another state of mind. And on the positive side, you can actually tap in that moment of awareness more and more. And on the other side, when very negative outcomes and unexpected outcomes come to you in your life, you see yourself much less reactive. Anxiety is always there, fear is always there, but you find yourself
you acknowledge it.
Yeah, you acknowledge it faster, and you are much more able to actually detach from that and actually observe the anxiety.
So you see it, you're like, okay, anxiety, I see you, but I won't let you take over my body and make decisions.
Exactly.
I will let you go, and then I can continue.
Also because and it allows you to do a beautiful exercise of reframing continuously, because most of the time, there is another beautiful book. I'm doing a master in neuroscience now, so I'm very interested in neuroscience. I think that a lot of the insights we are extracting from neuroscience, they find a lot of resonance in a spiritual journey. And this is a beauty, because when I do spiritual coaching with groups, my first chapter is always science. I think that science is an incredible tool that we have for spiritual growth, for spiritual personal development.
Especially from the West.
Exactly.
We are used to the science,
exactly, and we have invented that, and this is a gem of the world. Science is one, and probably not the only one, because we also have the Judeo-Christian tradition, which is definitely another gem, as the Greek-Roman tradition. But the third gem of the Western society is science. But the fact is that at a certain point, and I don't know precisely when, but at a certain point we decided that science and spirituality were at the opposite side of they were just opposite. And this is a terrible assumption. This is
it only happened in the West, I guess, right?
Sure, but Galileo was a deep spiritual master.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was he had an extremely strong faith in Christianity. So he wasn't actually doing science to demonstrate to the world that we actually live in a material world and the only things that matter are facts. He wasn't doing science for that. Galileo was doing science to understand the profoundness, the depth of the universe. To actually
the meaning,
actually exploring the meaning of the universe.
They were looking for the truth.
Yeah, exactly, the truth about the universe, which is, by the way, spirituality. So he was actually working as a spiritual guy while doing science. Then at a certain point we have decided, no, science is about facts. And facts are not useful for spirituality. This is extremely wrong. And I think there is so much that we have, that we can actually, so many resources that we have in science that actually match spiritual journeys of great spiritual masters, that is beautiful to see. And neuroscience is surely one of those. Also physics. It's so mysterious what we are discovering about the world, that is so beautiful to read and so spiritual. Science now is extremely spiritual when you go to the depth of it. But neuroscience also.
It's super interesting that some people, you're now finding a link between spirituality and science. It's interesting that some people in some part of the world find that intersection by studying hard, putting an effort on science, and some other people just by feeling.
Yeah, by their own personal experience.
But in two very, very different ways.
Sure, but I think what we can say is that getting to that through personal experience is faster. Like the fact that personal, like I think that the deepest truth about the universe you can access only through yourself, through your personal experience. So the deepest knowledge you can have about the universe will be through your personal experience. It won't be through the knowledge that someone has found out in an experiment and then told you.
That's like if I describe you the sunset, you don't know what the sunset is.
Exactly.
You have to experience
exactly. So the deepest truth, like the deepest knowledge, is in your personal experience, and this was also something that was said by Siddharta. Like you have a different level of knowledge, and you have the knowledge of faith, where you know because you have faith in something. Then you have the knowledge of the intellectual knowledge, so you understand something because you put logic in that, and it resonates in your mind. And then you have the personal experience, and I think personal experience is a shortcut to truth. But what science is trying to do is trying to actually build a model around the truth that you can find in personal experience, doing a lot of experiments and trying to generalize them and generalize the outcome. And this is a much more complicated enterprise. So, and you know, so, and this is why, like, sometimes some people say what we are discovering in neuroscience now is something that Siddharta has discovered 2,000 years ago. And I say, yeah, it's true, but it's also true that for Siddharta, the fact is, to actually embrace the teaching of Siddharta, you actually need an act of faith, which is more difficult to do if the master is not here. Because one thing is actually following Siddharta, speaking directly to Siddharta, but the point is we as human now following the teaching of Siddharta, the teaching of Jesus, or the teaching of any spiritual master without knowing the spiritual master, the act of faith required is much higher. So the fact that we have a human enterprise that is trying to actually create a common knowledge based on a lot of personal experiences and try to make a universal truth around that, which won't be as profound as the truth that you will find yourself through your personal experience, but that might be extremely useful to allow you to make the first act of faith to then go through the journey yourself. I think this is the beautiful thing that science is doing. And I think we should acknowledge that. And when I do spiritual coaching with groups, sometimes there are a lot of skeptical people joining those groups, like people that are atheists and then come from a very bad relationship with the religion that was taught to him by the parents or with the spirituality in general. And for them, it's really freeing starting a spiritual path from science.
It speaks their language.
Exactly, but the beautiful thing is that what they discover after I do inside sessions, at least 3 sessions of 2 or 3 hours, so it's really 10 hours lecture about science, and I start with I always the lectures are matter, life, and consciousness, because those are the 3 biggest discontinuity we have in our universe.
Life, and
consciousness. Yeah. And after 10 hours of lecture about science, they find themselves being extremely spiritual. And it's super funny to see that, because yes, science is a beautiful tool to spirituality. So to go back to my original topic was, it all started from what I was saying, which was I read an amazing book which I suggest, which is How Emotions Are Made. Written by Lisa Feldman Barrett, which is one of the top neuroscientists and psychologists in the world. She teaches at the Boston University. And what you find in that book, which is really beautiful, is that emotion that we feel are not something that they are concepts that we construct in our mind, starting from interoception. So we feel something in our body because our nervous system is in contact with our physical body. We receive signal from the physical body. We receive signal from the environment, and we build the concept of our mind automatically can build the concept of emotion around it. But that concept is not something that like fear doesn't exist in your mind as a fear, as a standard like number of neurons that firing in your mind when you have fear, or doesn't exist in the way you actually change your face or in the physiological reaction to fear. Like fear is one of the closest to actually the raw signals. But if we go to more complicated emotions like anxiety or nostalgia, those are actually concepts that you build in your mind. And the fact is, you can actually learn more and more to deconstruct your concept and just go to the raw data of what you're feeling, that are inputs from your body and inputs from the outer world.
It's like a result of the software, not the hardware.
Exactly. And you can actually rewrite the software. That's the beautiful part. Like, you cannot rewrite the signal you're receiving from your stomach, but you can rewrite how you interpret that. And there are beautiful experiments. This is another example that I do. Like, when I say this thing to people, they don't really understand. So I always make this example. And it's not an example strictly related to emotion, but it's an example related to a lot of the concepts that we have in our mind that are deeply connected to the raw data of the input we are receiving from our body. And this is a beautiful experiment, and it has been done. And you can read about it in a book called Determined by Robert Sapolsky, which is another neurobiology in Stanford. The experiment is something like that, and probably I won't be extremely right in the details because I'm doing that by memory, but you can read the correct details in the book. But it's something like that. If you put a person in a room and you ask them to evaluate, to give a moral judgment about some sentences, okay, from 1 to 5, how much do you think that this sentence is moral? So what you're reading is moral. 5, very moral. 1, totally immoral. Okay, and they rate them, and a lot of people in a lot of different rooms. And the best predictor for how much immoral the people are voting the sentences is the bad smell in the room.
Wow.
And the bad smell. So you have different rooms with different degree of bad smells.
It's yourself, your mind, your experiences, your memories, but no, it's something.
It's the bad smell in the room, because the other beautiful part is that if you're doing the same experiment with different people, and with the same people in different days, and you place the same person in a room with a higher degree of bad smell, it's going to rate lower very similar sentences that in meaning are extremely exactly the same what they were the sentences he rated yesterday, just because of the bad smell in the room. Why is that? Because we have a part of our nervous system, of our brain, which is called the insula, which is meant to process disgust. You say that in English? Disgust, distaste. And the fact is that part of your brain was built to actually process like this taste when you eat something or when you smell something. But the fact is that society has evolved much faster than your brain. So at a certain point, your brain needed to find a feature, something to use, a building block to use to process moral disgust. And it decided to use insula as well. So the insula is already there. And the brain uses insula. But the fact is that if I activate your insula through the bad smell, you're going to have a more negative moral judgment about your sentence. And then if I ask you why you're doing that, you won't answer to me, it's the bad smell. You will answer with a very sophisticated philosophy about like morality, etc.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I give you another example because those experiments, I just love them, so I always quote them. Yeah. Another example is something like that. Like this is from I don't remember this. I think the book is Being You by Anil Seth, but I might be wrong. I think it's Being You, another wonderful book about consciousness. And the experiment is something like that. They take a beautiful girl, actually collecting signs for charity. Okay, so there is this girl that is actually signing for, like, actually collecting on the street signs for a random charity. Okay, signatures for charity, and they put a lot of heterosexual men in the street, and the girl approaches him to sign. And they measure the number of men, the percentage of men trying actually to hang out with her. And they use that, like, as a proxy of that. I think they use the number of men that ask for her number. Okay. They do this in a normal street, and then they do this on a very high bridge. In an extremely high bridge in the middle of the mountains, and the percentage of men actually trying to get her number increases significantly. And it is statistically relevant.
In the bridge.
Why? Because the feeling that the signals that your body is sending to your nervous system in a condition of height, where you have you're excited and somehow also kind of anxious because you can fall. So you're actually, how do you say vertiginous in English? There's definitely a word.
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. But the fear of height, like the sensation that your body is sending to your nervous system, are very similar to the sensation that you have when you're approaching. When you're asking for a number, like girl. So the fact is, your nervous system is processing your body signals and is delivering to you the idea. You're conceptualizing, I like this girl. Because I have the feeling, so I like this girl, so I should ask her number. And so, this is crazy. And this is true. Like, this is experimentally demonstrated, and it's beautiful. So, to go back to our original conversation.
So we should not fully trust our emotions.
Our mind and our thoughts. Yeah, definitely. Never trust your thoughts. Never. There is it's always like part of the predictive system of your nervous system, but it's much closer to the raw data. The sensations that you have in your body are much closer
so
to
it's
truth.
Better to focus on the sensation, what you feel in your your gut, rather than thoughts.
Yeah, well, definitely.
But it's nice that you say this, like, on a scientific base. I mean, it's scientific.
This is scientific, yeah. And what you learn, Vipassana meditation is all about focus on the breath and then on the sensation of your body. And what you actually, to go back to say, like, when I feel anxiety, what meditation gives to me is that I can directly connect with the sensation I'm feeling with my body. And I can just say, this sensation is surely not positive, like it's not pleasant, it's a negative sensation. But maybe it's not anxiety. Maybe I just eat something in the morning, or maybe whatever. Like, this is not.
So it's not about why I have anxiety, but let's see what I have.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just there. It's a negative sensation. I will look at that, accept it, detach from the concept of being anxious, detach from the concept, because there is like this strong association in saying I am happy, I am sad, I am fearful, I am anxious.
Once we put the label on ourselves,
exactly.
Then you see the label and
your nervous system is going to be extremely biased in looking for, because like your nervous system is a predictor.
It's
like
a closed loop.
Yeah, exactly. Continuously closing the loop. So it does a prediction and then it looks for prediction errors in reality. And if you find some prediction errors, it's a little bit upset. If you find confirmation, it feels great. So the fact is your nervous system, and when you say I'm fearful or I am anxiety, is going to look inside yourself and inside the outer world for confirmation for that prediction.
Confirmation, yeah.
Exactly. And you can find a lot of that.
And do you think we should use it for our advantage? So, for example, I should say I'm happy, I'm courageous, I'm feeling good, etc. Or that's cheating. Also.
I think this is a beautiful question. It's also the difference between psychology at the beginning and what we call positive psychology. There is an extremely now fruitful line of research in psychology called positive psychology. So the psychology that is not about like treating your depression, but is about increasing the moment of happiness in your life. Okay, it's a positive psychology. And I think that is useful at the beginning. I think to reach the stability that we have discussed, to reach a point in which you actually are more rooted in yourself and more centered, it's useful to actually reframing what you're feeling and actually working to increase the moment of happiness and enjoyment. But the real achievement at the end is getting rid of all of it. Like being able to actually just observe.
Be connected to the raw data.
Exactly. See, this sensation is negative, this sensation is positive.
And we put all these weird layers between who we truly are and our raw data because of our past experiences.
Exactly, totally. Yeah. Like there are so many layers that we put with our mind and our thoughts that are not necessary, and they are simply constructed in your mind. They're nothing more than images that you have in your mind. You're just what you're feeling. You're just your eternal flux of like continuous flux of awareness. You're no more than that. You're not fearful. You're not happy. You're not you. You're just
it's an image. The you is an image.
Yeah, and it's a continuous work. Like it's not that we say this, so you do a.
But it's hard that it's continuous work. So whenever I'm not working on this, I fall down to the standard, and the standard is I am me.
Yeah,
you
sure.
Are you,
Sure. You will where I am now is this like continuous like stepping up and stepping down from a moment of awareness and a moment of me. Identified with my thoughts, identified with my ego, identified with my emotions, but like this capacity, the power of actually recognizing that, because that's interesting. Like you recognize, oh, now I'm identifying with my thinking. The moment you say that in your mind, you detach from that.
Yeah, because you're aware.
You're aware.
You're aware.
Yeah. And meditation helps you a lot in doing that exercise. I think you cannot actually do it without a proper tool that is helping you, because our life is so messy in that sense that it's very complicated to just actually being able to do the exercise without a proper preparation and a proper technique that supports you. And you know, if you read the Satipatthana Sutta, which is the discourse of Siddharta, where he actually explains in the details the practice of meditation and what has and Vipassana meditation, which by the way is not the only meditation. Like Zen tradition is another extremely powerful one. The Shokshen, the Tibetan non-dualistic meditation, is another one. So it's not to say Vipassana is the only one, but like it's the one I'm actually practicing at the moment. So I can bring more details on the table, but in the conversation. But the fact is, if you take the Satipatthana Sutta, the exercise of meditation and the object of awareness are respiration, body, sensation, and content of mind. We can translate the
image that I produced.
Yeah, content of mind, like it's called Sankara. It's a Pali word that is very complicated to translate, but let's say just the thoughts and the images, whatever comes in your mind, okay? And so, and they are explained really like a kind of a path. You start from breath, then you go to your body, then you go to your sensation, then you go to your content of mind. In the tradition, my meditation teacher, in the tradition, the name is Goenka. In the tradition of Goenka, you don't practice, you practice awareness of a sensation just after, on the 4th day of retreat, just after 3 days of meditation only on breath. 10 hours a day for 3 days, just for...
That's the opening gate.
Yeah, that's the opening gate, because you actually need your mind to actually remove a lot of layers before getting to the concentration, to actually be aware of your breath and of your subtle sensation. Then you can start scanning your body and make the body scan and observe your sensation without being identified on that. The meditation on the content of mind, I have never done it, because it comes after like a free retreat and more than 2 years of meditating 2 hours a day, because there is a kind of
but wouldn't that be like observing your mind and the images you produce?
Yeah, sure, but the fact is informal practice, if you do that, like the meditation on your thoughts, it's extremely complicated to observe your thoughts without being identified with them in general, and in particular if you're actually looking for the thoughts. Like, so meditation on content of mind is extremely complicated. And so in a very like Indian Birmanian tradition, what they say is that I'm going to bring you there just when your capability of being aware and focus your attention and not identifying with what you're actually feeling is sufficiently strong to then move to observe the content of your mind without identifying with that. Maybe not the right path. Like there are also mindfulness-based therapies like mindfulness-oriented meditation, etc., that we can find also in a lot of schools in Italy. That the meditation on the content of mind comes right at the beginning. So you have in a single session you have breath, you have body, and then you have meditation on the content of mind. But overall, what we can say, that, and just to go back to where we started, is there is surely a path to be followed, and there is surely a training to do to actually be able to be in a moment of extreme anxiety with a lot of things and inputs happening around you, and just sit in the seat of the dispassionate observer. This is this is super challenging, and it's challenging also for me.
Wow, super interesting description of how meditation works in details. Never heard such a detailed description, Carlo.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate, and definitely I will approach my meditation different in the next days. Yeah.
Amazing.
Something I really wanted to ask you. I mean, from your opening sentence, I had many questions. So let me get one of those. Yeah, I also forgot. Like, write it down. But this one really stuck with me, which is you are helping people as a spiritual coach.
Yeah.
You're helping founder, especially.
Yeah.
And you say like the founder path and a spiritual path. I mean, they're very similar. They're not something far one from another. Can you tell me more about it? I'm super curious because I think like not only founders but all the people who build something are doing their craft. Like we mentioned Galileo before, right? Yeah. Like I can perceive, I can see that these people are aware they're having, maybe not always aware, but they're having also a spiritual experience. Like there is this faith, there is this destiny. Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know if it's a construction of their mind, but you see that these two paths come together. Yeah. What is your point of view on that?
Okay, this is a beautiful question. I think that, and I may be wrong, this is just speculation, so it's not based on data, but I think that being a founder, or as you say, like being a builder, being something that is doing his own enterprise, and sometimes that is working, it can be like funding a company, it can be writing a book, it can be being a musician, yeah. What we can say is that all those people are the people that are out from the default path. Okay, so they are doing a path that is not the default ones, most of the time. And for all those, what getting out of the default path gives to you is the deep awareness of your freedom. That's the point. Like you deeply recognize when you're actually building a company or you're writing a book, that in that book or in that company, you can actually do whatever you want. Like you are free. Like there is no there are very few boundaries in what you can do in every moment of your life. Like in every moment of your life, you are definitely free to do what you want to do. And like when you build a company, you actually you recognize that, and you see that there is a problem, and you're the only person that can solve the problem. And there is most of the time there is no like guidebook to how to solve the problem. And you can have like 10,000 possible solutions to that problem, and you're the only one that can apply that. You just pick one and you do it, and you actually start solving the problem with an immense freedom. Like one thing, this I'm going back to we have quoted a lot of spiritual masters. Now this quote is going to sound like out of focus, but like the founder of Twitch, Justin Cairns, he says something like the one of the most beautiful part of being a founder is that you're continuously doing a job you're completely unqualified for. And this is totally true. Like you find yourself doing marketing without knowing anything about marketing. You find yourself doing product without it. You find yourself writing codes. I found myself like becoming a kind of a software engineer intern without having because that was needed. It was needed. So let's start learning how to code and just let's write code. Okay. And the fact is, you actually you actually do that, and you demonstrate to yourself that you can do it. You are free to be the head of marketing of your company without having any background on marketing. You are free to take this very standard problem and apply a crazy solution because you just think it's the right one, and no one is there to tell that this cannot be done. And this like continuous confrontation with your freedom is what is going to bring you towards the spiritual path. Because if you feel like you're free and you're actually deciding every moment of your life what you are doing, because when you are in the default path, there is always a voice in your mind that is explaining you why you're doing what you're doing. It's about this is a path, I've studied economy, so all my peers are going to consultancy. I've been told by my parents or my peers that going to consultancy
I want that prestige.
I want the prestige, so there is a guidebook, and so I need to do step A, B, and C. So why are you doing what you're doing? Because I'm following step A. This is how it's meant to be. This is how a life of a consultant looks like. And so I just follow the step. And the fact is, you're actually deviating from the perception of your freedom. You're just focusing on following a guidebook. But when you actually open up to your freedom, you actually find yourself asking, why am I doing this? Like I could do 10,000 different things now. Why am specifically doing that thing? And the confrontation with your freedom is what is going to bring you towards the spiritual path. Because spiritual path, after all, is about like getting to the why more and more.
Becoming free
and getting to the why, or becoming, because the fact is you're already free. Becoming aware and able to face your freedom.
And acting accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely accordingly.
Yeah. There is a beautiful quote from I read it from Sartre, but I think the original philosopher is Kierkegaard. How do you say that? Oh my God, it's not anxiety. What is the word they use? The word is not anxiety, but let's use anxiety. Anxiety comes. It's something that comes from the confrontation with your freedom. Like looking at your freedom in the face. It's very scary. Can be very scary.
It's very scary. It's if you realize the hidden power that you have, the power of choice, it's very scary, because if you can choose anything, what would you choose?
Yeah, exactly.
Which truly represents you.
Exactly. And what Sartre says in a beautiful book called Essere nulla in Italian, which is something like being or nothing. Being and nothing, or something like that. Like we can translate that better. There is surely the English version, but he says that what we do to not face our freedom is continuously keeping our mind fully busy. So what we do with our life is actually trying to having something new scheduled in our calendar, being continuously
busy. Breakfast,
take the
tram, look at Instagram.
Exactly. You're always busy. Your mind is always focused on the next thing to do. And this allows you to not perceive yourself as free. And this sometimes is a comfortable position to be.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah, it's comfortable. You just need to follow and execute the steps you've put on the calendar today. But happiness comes from accepting your freedom.
Yeah, you need to welcome somehow something empty, and in that empty seeing the truth.
Exactly. And I think the reason why I work with founders mainly on their companies, but when I only work with founders that I feel like they're doing that for experiencing their freedom. So there is a kind of match there. And when I work with them, even most of the time we're actually speaking about how to reach the new customer or the next fundraising, or etc., we always end up sometimes to have a spiritual conversation. Because this confrontation with freedom is there, and I think it's one of the most beautiful part of actually funding a company or building something.
Yeah, it's definitely a path to freedom.
Yeah.
Wow, that is super interesting. And I think what is great, like nowadays, because of all the tools that we have, all the knowledge, all the information, more and more people are going into this kind of path. So more people are leaving their job to be artists, to be founders, to be builders.
Yeah.
And experience their freedom.
Yeah. What we can say, and this is probably the most beautiful thing that I can say on this topic, is that just to be fair, is that the fact is you're free also when you're a consultant, also when you're following a default path. The fact is not like leaving your job and becoming a founder. That is again a way. Probably a shortcut to actually recognize your freedom.
I fell into the trap. I was thinking that.
but it's
so
not.
You're free also if you.
You're free. Like the fact is, you're executing. Like you're in a perfect default path, and you're just following that. But you can actually recognize that you're free in every moment of your life. It's exactly.
You say it's easier when you're a founder
probably,
because you acknowledge.
Easier. Yeah, it's easier. It comes at a cost, because sometimes it comes at a cost of a trauma, as it was for me. But again, it's not about adding. It's not about following a specific path. It's not about the outcome. Happiness, freedom, they're already there. They're there in every moment of your life, whatever you're doing, and you don't need to listen to this podcast and just saying, okay, the thing that I need to do to access that freedom and that happiness is just to leave my job. Maybe that may be an option. But what I'm saying to you is you can actually do nothing except of being aware of the fact that you're already free and you're already happy.
And you have the power of the choice.
Definitely. You have the power of the choice in every moment. And it's a beautiful spiritual exercise to just be at your job, whatever it is, writing an email that you don't want to write. So making an extremely boring task, which is writing an email or whatever, like in the list of the tasks that you have to do your job, like take the most boring one and just be there with your computer writing an email. And suddenly be aware. And in that moment when you writing that email is the most beautiful thing has just happened in your day. It's so beautiful and so powerful. Recognizing that happiness and freedom is there even in the most boring task you actually have to do today. You do that and you are aware. You feel every.
Because you want to do it, or like I kind of lost myself there.
No, because you want to do it. Like, yeah, sure. Like because you actually are able to actually step to actually access that part of your mind which is just aware, is just in the flow of consciousness, and they can actually transform even the most boring task. And the fact that I said it's a spiritual exercise, so it's something you can actually force yourself to do at the beginning. It's an exercise, like meditation. It's a meditation exercise, but in your daily life, like in doing something in your daily life. It's really like just sit. I'm writing an email. I'm super bored, but now, like again, if you have a tool that helps you, it's easier. You focus on your breath, so you keep your awareness in the present moment. You feel your sensation in your nose, in your nostril, and then you start writing the email, but while you're writing, you're aware of every sensation you're feeling in your hands, you're aware of every sensation you feel through your eyes, what you're actually seeing, and that is a moment of beautiful awareness. You can tap in an extremely beautiful space of your awareness, and you're just writing an email. You're doing a completely, extremely boring task. And this is a spiritual exercise. And so that was important to say. Like, I don't want to say that to have a path of personal development, you need to have a founder. You need to be a founder, or you need to write a book, or you need to leave your job. The fact is, you need to confront with your freedom. This is for sure. You need to face your freedom. Do it in whatever way you want. You can do it with a standard job while doing a meditation. You can do it you can do it whatever way you want, but you need to do that. And again, and you go back to the first principle. I'm going to be the best version of myself, whatever is going to happen. And just life will unfold in front of you in a beautiful way. The fact it's so non-logical to think that the universe is bringing ahead processes that are incredible. Like, we are in the middle of a galaxy rotating around the sun that is delivering energy to create life on this planet, and seeds become plants.
It's a miracle.
It's a fucking miracle. And all of these incredible things don't require human intervention, don't require you doing
everything
anything.
Is perfect. Yeah.
Everything is just perfect without you. Why do you believe that to make your life perfect, you need to actually act on the universe?
Wow. Wow, that's true.
Why? It's just perfect as it is. You just need to act on yourself to fully accept that.
Yeah. It's a tyrant would think I need to do something.
To be happy, to live a fulfilling life, I need to do something. And it's tricky here. Yes, you need to do something, but the thing that you need, that the work that you have to do is much more about yourself and much less about the world around that, outside of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it. Because you are the one experiencing the world, your world. So you and you only experience.
Exactly. And the world out there is already perfect.
Yeah.
You don't need to make it perfect with your own intervention. Like, universe doesn't need that.
Wow. Crazy. I really love all of your answers, Carlo.
Okay, that was a super interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I think we had a beautiful conversation.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions, but I feel now that I feel there are many things at least, and probably some of the listeners need to think, internalize.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe we should do another conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
But I really love this.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
No, thanks to you.
Yeah, it's a bit it's a really a unique chance to speak about those topics that I really love, and I just believe this is true. And so it's beautiful to speak about truth in general. So thank you for giving me that chance.
Thanks to you. I think your story is it's a very authentic story. You have many experience. You've been in the different sides. We're talking about being too much in your mind, being free.
Yeah.
I mean, you have experienced all of this. So thank you because this is the second conversation we're having. So thanks.
Thank you.
Maybe just to close,
Yeah.
Because I always write this question. Let's see if it comes naturally. Otherwise, we just leave it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, probably will be a repetition of what you just said, but let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah.
What message would you like to send to the people listening in order to live a more authentic life?
we can kind of summarizing everything that we just said in saying that you should like the message that I would love to deliver to anyone who is listening is you need to find your way to actually understand that the goal of your life is not getting what you want and not getting what you don't want. Like the goal of your life is really about being the best version of yourself, whatever is going to happen in front of you. It's really about not using your will, your freedom to fight the universe and bend it over like in the version that you like, but it's about to use your will and freedom to fully accept what comes from the universe and put all of your energy in it.
Dancing with the universe.
Yeah.
Not opposing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. What is bringing, and the fact is the universe is going to express itself also through you if you allow
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wow, amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.